What I want to do is introduce the Spaniards. So, when I was a kid, hopefully this isn't happening anymore, but I know it is. When I was a kid, I was taught a bunch of nonsensical things. Like, for example, that everybody thought the world was flat. Columbus was a super genius. He figured out it was a sphere. He went west, discovered the Americas. Like, at every level, that's just wrong. First of all, the ancient Egyptians discovered the earth was a sphere 2,600 years ago, 2,100 years before Columbus. Actually, let me rephrase what I said. I said they discovered the earth was a sphere. They proved the earth was a sphere. Pretty much everybody knew the earth was a sphere before that. It's just nobody could prove it until the ancient Egyptians. So then that begs the question, why are we having this silly conversation about a guy figuring this out 2,100 years later? What Columbus does is he rejects the size of the earth. Think about it. When he goes to Isabella to sell her on this scheme of going west to get to Japan and China, the scheme means that Japan and China would be where North America is. For Japan and China to be where North America is, there can't be a Pacific Ocean or a North America. Columbus believed the earth was roughly half the surface area that is. And, just to make things funnier, he also thought the earth was pear-shaped. He believed that the Garden of Eden would be, by its nature, very close to heaven. So as a result, where God put the Garden of Eden, the earth would bulge up. So it was more of a pear shape than a sphere. In other words, it wasn't that Columbus was a genius and he got it right. He was an idiot and he got it wrong. And that's what the Portuguese were telling everyone. When he went to the Portuguese first, he said, if we go west, we'll be there. The Portuguese are like, you're an idiot. The distance is too great. You'll never make it. We don't have a ship that can cross the east-west distance of the Atlantic, the east-west distance of North America, and the east-west distance of the Pacific. You'll get a third of the way. You'll run out of fresh water and food. Your men will mutiny a sixth of the way because they won't want to go the trip because they'll realize it's a suicide mission. And so they tell him no. He goes to Isabella. Isabella does the math. She's like, if he's right, I'm going to be filthy rich. If he's wrong, I lose 3 ships. Big deal. So she sends him on a suicide, what everybody believes is a suicide mission. Because everybody knows the size of the earth. We've known the size of the earth by that point for 1,600 years. When Columbus arrives, long story short, because I don't want to focus on him. I just want to give you an idea. He actually, the Santa Maria, the flagship, hits a coral reef. The side of the Santa Maria is gashed open. It's sinking. The other 2 ships weigh anchor. And then they watch as Columbus and the men on the Santa Maria are going to drown. But the Taino, the Arawak Indians living on Haiti, see the ship sinking. They get in canoes and they row out and they save Columbus and his men. When they bring him ashore, then the other 2 ships send rowboats to shore. They're hanging out on the shore, trying to figure out what to do. Columbus decides to take a couple of weeks, recalibrate, figure out what's going on. The Taino are incredibly hospitable. They're very kind. And eventually Columbus decides, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go out to the coral reef at low tide, disassemble the Santa Maria, bring it back to the mainland, to the island, and then reconstruct it as a fort. And then I'm going to leave part of that crew behind to man the fort, so we have a permanent Spanish fort in the island of Haiti, Hispaniola, right? It's had multiple names, Santo Domingo. So today it has all the names because Hispaniola is what Columbus named it. The Native Americans called it Haiti, so Haiti. And then Dominican Republic is Santo Domingo. So all 3 names are on the island. And so what happens is Columbus sets sail with the other 2 ships. They head back to Spain. When he gets to Sevilla, as he's getting to Sevilla, he knows it's going to take him a while to unload the ships and get everything in order and start preparing for the next journey, hopefully. So he decides to write a letter to Isabella to send it ahead so that she can read the letter. She'll have basically been debriefed before he arrives. to make contact with her. And in the letter, he says, the Taino, the Native Americans on Haiti, were the kindest, most gentle people I had ever met. Their generosity was not exceeded by any people I've ever encountered. They shared their food, their shelter, they even shared their women. A few men with swords could make slaves of them all. Isabella goes, this is amazing. And she sends him on another journey, a second voyage, the very next year, 1493. This time it isn't 3 ships, it's a fleet. And this time it isn't just a bunch of sailors. They're sending carpenters and masons and marines and priests, and they send animals, because their goal in 1493 is not exploration, it's conquest. Columbus wasn't an explorer, he was the first conquistador. He is going to set the pattern for what the Spanish do after that moment. He's not a Spaniard, right? He's Genovese, he's Italian. But all the great ship's captains at the time were Italians with some Portuguese for good measure. So even John Cabot, the famous English captain, his name was Giovanni Cabotti. Even he was an Italian. That's just how it was. Columbus lands, finds the fort that they made out of the Santa Maria burnt. So, any good investigator would now go ask all the witnesses, find out what the Taino in the area thought. He can talk to them now because he talked a group of Taino into going with him to Spain so that he'd have something to show the queen. And in the process, those Taino learned Spanish, so he now has translators. So when he comes back, he could talk to the Taino and go, dude, what happened to the fort over there? Did you see something like somebody drop a lantern and it caught on fire? What happened? Where are the sailors? Did they die? Were they burnt to death? Did you kill them? He doesn't. What he does instead is he just starts slaughtering the villages in the area. He rounds up the Marines, they get off the ship, and they just go on a murder spree. Because he wants to set a tone. I don't even care what happened to those Spanish sailors I set behind. If something happens to them, y'all are gonna die. And then he goes to the Taino and he goes, see this? So the reason why Columbus liked Haiti so much that he wanted to go back to it to set up the first Spanish colony there was because when the Santa Maria sank, right? And the Taino rescue him, when he gets to the beach, he's like, what is this? There were literally nuggets of silver on the beach. And he thinks, God has given me Haiti so that I can enslave the Native Americans and have them collect the silver for me so that I can become filthy rich. And so he goes to the Taino and he says, I need you every day to go to the beach and collect silver nuggets and bring them to me. And the Taino don't have a concept of being conquered. They don't have a concept of a fixed leadership. The Taino were this entirely egalitarian democratic society. So they had a concept of leadership, but not fixed leadership. So for example, they're going on a fishing expedition. Before they go, they want a leader because you want somebody to make those decisions, especially if something goes wrong. Being able to make quick decisions is good. And so what they would do is they would elect a guy. But the next time they're going on a fishing expedition, they might elect a different person. In other words, they had the concept of leadership, they just didn't believe that one person should be the leader always. And so to have Columbus show up and say, I need you to go to a beach and pick up the nuggets of silver, they're like, why? Why would I do that? And one of the things the Taino had was they had silver jewelry. Like they were wearing little necklaces and stuff. And he's like, where is all this silver coming from? And he realizes this is the beach because he had encountered Native Americans in Cuba. And they had silver jewelry. So when the Taino don't bring him the silver nuggets, he grabs a group of them. He has them walk up to a table and put their hands on the table. He has the Marines chop their hands off and then cut the tips of their noses off. Some of the Taino get the message, right? Because they watch their friends slowly bleed to death as blood is pulsing out of their wrists. Some of the Taino go, okay, I get it. I think I'm a slave now. And they begin going and collecting the silver. They had no concept of slavery, but you know what I mean. Like they understood. I collect the silver or I get my hands chopped off. Got it. Collect the silver. Another group of them are like, I'm out of here, and they run away. They run into the mountains. And that's how Columbus introduces the Spanish to North America. That's what first contact looks like.